My name is Kerry James. I'm Associate Dean for Ross University School of Medicine. One of the areas I work with is the admissions team, working with all of our interviewers and all of our faculty. Our faculty are the ones that ultimately make the decision about who sits in their classes. And we're here today to talk about our September 2017 class. At this time of year, we always have a number of brilliant students that will certainly be working off of wait lists and end up going to their home state or their home province MD program. We also have really some of our very best students apply at this time of the year as yet again they've exhausted their wait list opportunities right to the very end, sometimes for several years in a row, and then suddenly you decide, this is the year that I'm just going to have to start my MD. And in many cases they've considered Ross for many years, but this is the year they decide to they start their journey. So I'm joined here by three of our recent graduates and also by Jennifer Yao, our Director of Enrollment. And really our graduates, they're all recent residents. They're all, I believe, in your intern year this year, correct? Oh, that's great. And so I think really it's a pep talk. It's some words of encouragement about their path, why they decided to take that step forward and make Ross, make that decision, I guess now 5 years ago, why you took that first step, or even 4 years ago, why you took that first step, why you didn't wait another year, and where you are now. Maybe we can start with Dr. Wu. 5 years ago, I know, had you already graduated from Vanderbilt, or were you in between Vanderbilt and med school? What was going on?
Yeah, so 5 years ago, feels like so long ago. So I graduated Vanderbilt in May 2012. I entered Vanderbilt knowing that I wanted to major in music, but in the end, I ultimately wanted to become a physician and that was my goal the whole time. So I did pre-med at the same time. I applied to Ross as well as US programs in the end of 2011 and into 2012. I interviewed with Ross in the spring of 2012. My goal was to start right away, and my admissions decision was Merck, so I did Merck from August 2012 to November, successfully completed that, and then went to Dominica in January 2013, completed 16 months there, and then came back to the States, took my step, completed my third year rotations in South Florida on the South Florida track, and then went through all of the interviews, and now it's intern year. I'm an internal medicine resident at Cleveland Clinic, Florida.
Wow, that's amazing, and such a well-known and terrific hospital system. Were you the same student in medical school that you were at Vanderbilt? Did you have to pick up your game, or were you always a brilliant student at Vanderbilt? How did this work out?
Motivation-wise and discipline, which I think I got from my years of music, that kind of stayed. But I mean, I don't think I had the right study skills or anything like that. I mean, I studied hard, worked hard, as we all did, but I think with the studying, I wasn't there yet. So even though it felt like taking a chance with getting Merck as my decision. I mean, from day one, they were teaching not only important material that we saw again on the island, but they were also teaching study skills and really helping us build good habits. And I feel like if I didn't have that time to learn the best way for me to study, it might have been a trickier time in the beginning in Dominica. Wow. So I felt like when I finally started in Dominica, I actually had a group going with studying.
That's great, and it's certainly we're star student with us, and starting off with a great program at Cleveland Clinic. Dr. Butt, 5 years ago, you were still enrolled in the University of Toronto, right?
Yeah, that's for sure. I mean, I started Ross in September of 2013. I was still in undergrad 5 years ago. So as soon as I finished undergrad, I did apply to Canadian medical schools. I was in Canada.
It's even more competitive in Canada than it is in the U.S.
It is for sure. There aren't as many medical schools in Canada, and of course the seats in Canadian medical schools isn't there aren't very abundant seats there either. So I just took a chance and applied to Ross. It was, I think, one of the 2 Caribbean schools that I did apply to. I just heard great things. And when I got in, I just flew straight to Dominica, and that was that.
Wow. Dr. Omar, University of Waterloo grad, also from Ontario Province, up in Canada. Also in school, I guess either just finishing school 4 years ago, certainly 5 years ago, you would have still been at Waterloo. What was your progression? So you came straight from undergrad to here? Or?
Yeah, so 5 years ago, I was just going into my last year of undergrad. I ended up taking my MCAT a little bit late, so I missed the deadline to apply for Canadian schools. But I knew that, regardless, I knew that I was going to be applying to Ross as well. And then I got accepted. I graduated in May of 2013 and started at Ross in September of 2013. So just a couple months in between.
What kept you pushing forward? So sometimes it's not the right time to go to med school. We have non-traditional students that have gone off and they've been in nursing or they've been a pharmacist, and they come to us at 30 or 35, or they've been out 15 years and it wasn't right for them to go in their early 20s or right out of school. Why did you decide to keep pushing forward? Was it just the right time? Was it?
Well, for me, I knew that this was always the only thing that I wanted to do, and the opportunity opened up when I got accepted to Ross. I would have explored other opportunities if I didn't get in at the time that I did, but I did, and it just worked out perfectly. I had that last summer off to kind of prepare myself for the next 4 years of medical school.
Did you have a good peer group of mentors in terms of, did you have friends or family that had previously gone to Ross that kind of blazed the trail? Or?
I did. I had friends who had graduated from Ross the year before, who I also knew at Waterloo, and he was the one who kind of was keeping me in check and letting me know how things were going. So that definitely played a huge role for me in terms of, this is what you should expect, this is what it's really going to be like, and just someone that I could reach out to for advice before the island, during the island, and even now after the island.
Dr. Budd, it sounded like you had quite a number of was it your peers from University of Toronto? Was it kind of a wider social net? But it sounds like you'd had some very direct feedback about their experiences at Ross.
Yeah, I had a close family friend who actually went to Ross many years ago. He is now currently an attending physician after completing residency and fellowship. And so he went a while ago, and then he told me about it. And by the time that I started, he had already started his residency. So I knew that there was an end to it all. Yeah. And there is like a destination point. He made it to the end. So that's why I knew that Ross would be a great opportunity for me at the time.
So you're also here in residency in South Florida. You're an internal medicine resident. Is it kind of amazing to think about that journey from 4 years ago? You're leaving your classes at University of Toronto to 4 years later. You're seeing your first patients as a physician. I guess you're already sort of almost 4 weeks into being an intern. And
yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly would have never thought. Like, it's still. I always tell Hanad, I'm like, Hanad, pinch me. Like, I can't believe this is real. We both talk to each other about this, and we're like, we can't believe we're residents. It's unreal. So no, definitely I did not think at that time that I would get to where I am now today. Yeah. But of course, I am proud of myself and my colleagues that have made it this far. So
I guess it's one of the interesting things is you go so quickly from being a student. So at Ross, you see your first patients really in the second week of school. You have your standardized patients that are coming through. You're learning examination techniques. The experiences build into the clinics, the local teaching hospital. You end up with quite a lot of patient contact, as you would expect, frankly, in an Oregon-based curriculum that emphasizes small groups. By the time you can come back to the U.S., but you're still a student, and even though you may have maybe spent a lot of your third and fourth year at Cleveland Clinic training, it has to be interesting to go from being the student 1 week to being now you're teaching medical students in addition to all of your duties as a resident. How's that experience been?
So the learning curve is extremely steep, and I mean, especially it's interesting for me having done so many rotations as a student at Cleveland Clinic and now actually working there. Like, I'm almost comparing my experience. Like, wow, like I first can't believe that. Just like you said, like, I can't believe I'm a resident, but at the same time, yeah, there's just so many more responsibilities, but then at the same time, I still feel like I'm a student because in a way, we're still learning. We're learning from our peers and co-residents and other students, and we're learning from our attending. So in a way, I still feel like a student, but with more responsibilities and pages to answer and orders to write. But
and I can tell, Dr. Omer, from your excitement about that this is what you have to do, and I guess it's that kind of drive and interest and love for the science and the art of medicine. You all have to be lifelong learners, right? You have to board exams have to be retaken every so many years, and recertifications and continuing education credits. So it's definitely something that you have to have a real love for, because I guess you're never really out of school, so to speak.
That's for sure.
Jennifer, so Jennifer, you're also our director of enrollment. So all of our graduates here, made that step forward. There's so many different options. There's 3,000 medical schools around the world. There's 150 or so MD programs here in the U.S. And how many now in Canada? Is it 17?
Yeah, somewhere around 15.
15. And so, I mean, there's all these programs that you can keep applying to and reapplying to, and you can take 5 years before you go sit in a class. I think the average age of an applicant, back in the U.S. is 24. I think for us it's about 25. But a lot of students are there in their mid-20s. Why? How can somebody who decides, no, this is the year, I'm not going to wait, I can do this, I want to be in their seat 4 years from now in residency, how do they still get there, right? So there's still positions, right, that people can earn their way into for September. How do they get there?
Well, the first step is to just submit your application. And we make it really easy for you. There's the online application. You could submit your AMCAS app to us. You can do that right on our website, and we'll get all that information entered for you.
That's a student copy that they just email us the PDF, and we have all that information to start working with, or?
Yep, exactly. We take that PDF and we'll do all the hard work for you. And so we will have an admissions coordinator that will work with each student along the way. And handhold you through this process. Make sure that we're getting all your documentation that's needed to have you reviewed for an interview. I understand that it might seem a little late in the game, but we've got plenty of time, and we're doing everything we can to expedite applications, working with unofficial documents that are emailed to the coordinator and to us at the admissions at rossu.edu. So getting that stuff to us, because in a week, we could have you reviewed for an interview.
Right. I think that is one of the take-home things. Once we receive, even if it's at this stage, student copies of the MCAT, student copies of either an MCAS application or student copies of your transcripts, that allows us to start considering you for an interview. Absolutely, we're going to need the official documentation, and you might as well request that from the schools. But rather than waiting 2 or 3 weeks for it to show up in the mail, we can make a decision right now about whether we're going to bring you in for an interview. Interviewers, certainly we interview 5 days a week. Even occasionally Saturdays can be arranged depending on everyone's schedule, so if you have a work issue. But basically, if you apply this week, there's no reason that we cannot have enough information by this Friday, next Monday, to decide whether we're going to interview you or not. I think part of the advantage of taking that step, of applying, finishing your application, is that what happens if you're denied? What happens if you are not invited for an interview? You want to know that right now. You don't want to know that in January or next year sometime. We are very prescriptive in what our faculty tell us. If our faculty say, we think you're a great person, we love the fact that you were scribed for the last year, we love how your grades improved, you had a difficult time freshman year, you're on the dean's list repeatedly by the time you're in junior or senior year, you look like a great student, however, your MCAT places you at risk. We will come right back and say, you need to retake the MCAT, right? The last time that was given for the years in the first week of September, and so it may be just a matter of retaking the MCAT in September. If it's an issue where the faculty says, well, your grades have been a little bit inconsistent in the context of your application, we want you to take a few more advanced classes. We will come right back to you and say, well, here's a list of a dozen advanced classes. We see you've taken a few of those. Let's look at the other 9. Where can you register? What can you register for this September so that you can add that additional training this fall? We'll have those grades in December, and guess what? We'll re-review your application, and then we'll reconsider you in December when we have that new information. We don't. It doesn't matter if you're on your second or your third application to us. The question that we ask each time, or the faculty asks each time, is, are you ready to succeed in our medical school right now? Right? Not last year, not 5 years ago when you're a freshman in college, or 8 years ago when you're a freshman in college. We asked, 4 years ago, were you ready to enter Ross now? And I think that's the focus, is we're really trying to recruit and admit students that are going to be successful in our program. We've been at this now for nearly 40 years. Our faculty, I think, have a very well-developed idea of who's successful in our program, what their characteristics are, not just in the classroom and on an MCAT, but also what they've done volunteer-wise, what they've done experience-wise. Do they know what they're getting into with the field of medicine? Have they done the footwork to see if this is the right field? So certainly, but in order to have that review, in order to have that guidance, we need to consider your whole application in context. So Jennifer, if somebody applies now, right? So we get all their unofficial documentation sent to us. We decide that they apply tonight or they apply tomorrow. We make a decision about interviewing on Friday, maybe Monday of next week. All right, we interview that candidate sometime, let's say Wednesday, Thursday of next week. All right, we're able to expedite now the results of that interview back to the faculty. Maybe by as soon as basically a week from Friday, which I don't know if that's August 3rd or 4th, but we could have a decision. So when do students have to be on campus? Is it at the end of August for check-in for it's a full week-long orientation? It's a very important part of starting medical school on the right foot. So what date is it this year?
August 28th.
August 28th. So how do we get somebody ready in 3 weeks to go from, all right, congratulations, you're admitted, you're ready, you have everything it takes to be not just a student, but a great student with us, right? How do we get them ready is it going to take all 3 weeks? Do we get them ready in 3 days? Is it 3 hours? How does that work?
So as soon as the student's accepted, they're assigned a new student coordinator. I'm sure you guys all worked with a new student coordinator, and who really handholds you through that process. I've worked with students, and they've gotten, accepted 2-3 days before they need to be down there. But ideally, this is a perfect time. We've got to book travel, we've got to get some immunizations done, fill out some visa forms, obviously mentally prepare and pack. But 3 weeks is a great time frame to do that.
Yeah, there's a little bit more footwork. You're not going to go and enroll you're seeing patients,
right.
but 2 weeks into September, so it's a little bit different than getting ready for undergrad. But basically, it usually takes 2 or 3 days to find housing, to book flights, I guess we get all the visa paperwork from people, and then we file it with the government. We take care of that in the background. So it's a pretty seamless process. Dr. Buck, do you remember back to when you onboarded with the school? Was there some part of the onboarding process that was more difficult than others?
I think most of it was just figuring out immunizations. I think that took the longest. Just immunizations, all the documents that we needed to actually get to Dominica. And then, like you said, the booking flights, finding housing, all that takes some time. So definitely I think that if you have the time now, just go for it instead of waiting last minute. Because I do know people that waited a week, right a week prior to the time they had to be on the island, and they were just kind of really frazzled and trying to get things all together. So if you have the time now, I think it would be ideal. If you are thinking about going to Ross, then it's better to do it with some time to deal with all these other things that you have to do.
Yeah, and I think now each year it gets a little bit easier in terms of there's more urgent cares opening. I remember when, so I lived in Dominica 2004 through 2006. I remember when I was getting ready to go down there, I was working at Ohio State at the time. I had to go and do all the health checks and so on, and book an appointment. Nowadays, there's an urgent care, it seems like every half a mile on my drive home. So I suppose nowadays I could have walked in and seen a practitioner, and they could have filled out the paperwork sometime that hour, but so things do speed up a little bit with time. How were your preparations, Dr. Wu? Were they pretty straightforward? Was it a convoluted process? I guess you knew because you were going through the MERT program in August. You kind of had a bit, you finished, I suppose, in November or December, so you had a bit of an advance warning that I guess was it a 4-month long preparation process for Dominica, or?
I've been the type of person who I'm just trying to finish one task before the next one. I didn't try to look too far ahead. But I mean, I knew that it was coming, and then once I successfully passed, for anyone who ends up doing MERP and that's their decision, within a few days of finding out that I successfully passed, yay, then we got that email from the student coordinator who had kind of like a checklist right away of things we needed to start getting together. And at that point, since I finished at the end of November towards Thanksgiving, I had like maybe a month and a week, so almost like 5 weeks to kind of prepare and get ready. But I mean, anyone, if you're coming from MERP, or you're coming straight through from college or grad school, you probably have those immunizations from school, so hopefully in that way it wouldn't be too difficult to find them again, and just like you said, there's urgent care every other corner. So in this day and age, it's not too tough to at least get those things going.
That sounds good. Dr. Omar, how were your preparations? Was there any sticking points, or was it a pretty smooth process?
I mean, overall, it was definitely pretty smooth. The one thing that was kind of a little bit rough was finding housing. That's just because I was very picky about where I wanted to live.
Yeah, same.
But I've
used the housing database with all I know nowadays there's photographs and where it is on the map, and is it across from the main gate of campus, but I don't know if it was more rudimentary in your day, or.
So 4 years ago wasn't that long ago, but I've heard that it's improved significantly. There's a lot more pictures and just interactive maps about how close everything is to campus and the different resources.
I think they let people review it faster now, but I think back in the day you couldn't even see it until once you had been once you'd confirmed your enrollment and you've registered and all those things. I think you see it earlier in the process nowadays too. Yeah. So after your interview you can start figuring out if you want to be living across campus and spend $900, or a 5-minute walk and spend $400. I mean, I know that seems to be kind of that radius to campus seems to influence pricing.
and there's tons of housing too for anybody who's worried that I might not get housing. There's tons of housing. Yeah,
it's a pretty huge amount. I think there's something like 2,000 units or whatever around campus, and at any time we may have 1,000 or 1,200 students when you add up all of our semesters. We are not a school of let's put 900 in a classroom or whatever, or 600, I think we're kind of a right-sized place, and I love the fact there's a housing glut, because it makes the landlords kind of compete with each other as who has the better air conditioning, who has the better internet, and so it's
plenty of options.
That one has a toaster, that one doesn't.
Playing the landlords off each other, so and it's semester by semester leases, right?
Yes.
Exactly. So
exactly.
Did any of you guys move after the first semester, or did you like it and bunker down, or?
Wow.
I ended up staying in the same place all 4 semesters.
Same, me too.
Did any of you guys stay in touch with your landlords, or it's fine if you don't? But I know some landlords they kind of have almost like a tree of these are like the 300 people that have stayed in my apartments over the last decade, or but some are more.
I did keep in touch with my cleaning lady after the island.
Oh, neat.
But I haven't spoken to her in a while now. But I remember off the island when I was in rotations, I did talk to her for a bit.
Yeah, so I think one of the neat things I remember about the island are kind of the unexpected friendships, and then when you see people so happy for your success, I was there as a faculty member. I wasn't there as a student, but just the people that have kept up with me that weren't even part of the Ross community, and just they know I'm married, they know I have a kid, everybody's kind of tracks my life a little bit. I guess Facebook makes that easy, but it's always, I don't know, I always thought it was pretty touching that that folks care.
And they do. I know a lot of people are concerned about it so far away. I'm afraid of being so far away from home, and I mean, it is far from home, but you're in a place that everyone's doing the same thing. We're all there supporting each other. And I mean, no, I don't keep in touch with my my landlord, but they always responded way faster than I could even imagine if I had an issue. And they were like my second parents. They were always like looking out for me.
Yeah.
And so it is a really little comforting, like family almost.
Yeah, for sure. It's neat. Certainly, I think, it's, often alumni come back to help out during orientation. I hope that's, and serve as mentors and talk about their path and the fact that, you didn't always have an A in every single class, and you have victories, you have classes where you're like, thank goodness I just got through that one. But I think people always like hearing that, and the humility, especially when you achieve great success, that you're real people with successes and difficulties, and the hard work got you there. For our audience, for folks that are taking that step, and this is the year that they're doing this, right? And they want to be in your seats, right? 4 years from now. What's the one advice you can give them about medical school, whether it's something to do with life and keeping the motivation and wellness, whether it's about what they have, about focusing on the coursework, or but now that you're sitting here as residents, what if there's one or even two pieces of advice you could give to somebody who's about to take this step, what would it be? We can start with you, Dr. Omar, and then we'll work around the table back to Dr. Wu.
Absolutely. Just a couple little tidbits I think that helps me and all of the friends that I know is that you definitely have to believe in yourself. If this is what you really want and you're committing yourself to move to a new country and new lifestyle, and you're going to be in medical school. It's not a vacation. You're not going to be able to be on the beach every day, but there are going to be days where you can go to the beach after an exam and have fun that you wouldn't get to have, let's say, if you stayed here or anywhere else in North America. But you definitely have to believe in yourself every step of the way, because I had some moments where I felt like I was on top of the world, and then some moments that were not so great. But it all balances out. You're going to make great friends. I made lifelong friends. I went down there, I didn't know anyone, and I met Dr. Butt, I think the first week when I was there, and now we're residents in the same program. So I think believing in yourself is the most important thing. If this is what you really want, you just got to put your head down and just go 100 miles an hour and hope for the best. But I think that everything that you put in is what you'll get out from it.
And it's funny, you mentioned how you now have this network across the U.S., across Canada. I hear that all the time from alumni that are 10, 15 years into practice, and they say that people that they knew from orientation, or folks that to this day they call for a consult and say, hey, I've got this case. But it's pretty amazing that folks that are right now deciding, am I taking this step this year or not? 5 weeks from now in orientation, we'll meet people that will be their colleagues and their trusted friends for the rest of their practice lives, and that's kind of an amazing thing. Dr. Budd, what's your advice for the audience?
I think my advice would be that the island will definitely challenge you a lot, especially coming from undergrad, maybe not doing so well, but you just got to keep your head up high. Things will move really quickly, and before you know it, clinicals will come. You'll be done with your step 1, and then when you start your second year, third year, fourth year, you're going to actually feel like you're contributing, or you're actually practicing medicine. The first 16 months is going to feel like, more lectures, more studying, things like that. And you will be studying in second, third, and fourth year as well, but you'll feel more like you're actually practicing medicine. So just keep your head up high and just believe in yourself. I agree with Dr. Omar.
Which track did you do? The South Florida track, or were you elsewhere? Or?
I was in Chicago.
Oh, neat.
I did
Which
the
hospital?
Mount Sinai track.
Great preparation, I know, at Mount Sinai.
Sure.
So a lot of our graduates there as residents as well. Certainly been a great relationship there. Dr. Wu, what advice do you have for our students?
So I fully agree with Dr. Butt and Dr. Omar. They made great points. But in addition to all of that, just also try to do things for yourself to keep yourself sane and healthy, because it's going to be a difficult road. But you have to keep doing things. Give yourself a little break when you can. Whether it's going to the beach for a little bit, after an exam, or taking that study break to work out. I know with me, I was a music major. I love music, so just taking some time to listen to a piece of music, and all of trying to stay motivated. You also have to keep yourself grounded and sane, because it is a stressful time going from the island and then to clinicals and then to applying to residency, and then once you're in residency, but it's also easier said than done. But in addition to staying, positive and not giving up, you also have to take time for yourself.
Quick question: Did the way that you manage stress? So you listened to music, you took time, you took a step back, some beach time, in Dominica. You did the South Florida track, so we have beaches here in Miami as well. Was it the same thing? Go to the beach and listen, take a step back and listen to music, or was it easier to de-stress when you're here for clinicals?
It's kind of similar for me. Like, I kind of did the same routine. Like, my stress reliever was having my afternoon workout. I still can't find time to go to the beach, whether it was the island or here in South Florida.
So aspirationally, you can go to the beach. You maybe didn't do it.
Correct. But at the same time, I still love the island environment, so that's why I love being down here. But just staying true to yourself. Please work out, listen to music. Don't forget those little things.
It's great. I think all those pieces of advice are very relatable to students who are going to be setting off on this journey in 5 weeks. Any closing remarks, Jennifer, for our audience before we wish them well?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the most important thing is that you just take that first step. And so in closing, I would like to ask, what would you say to students who are watching right now and who are on the fence about September? Is it the right time for me? Should I reapply and try for a better MCAT score? So maybe Dr. Butt, if you could start, what would you say specifically to those students?
Just do it. You've got nothing to lose. Waiting another year, I know for me personally that was not an option. I wasn't, it's the uncertainty of waiting and then reapplying again to Canadian schools and not knowing if you're going to get in or not. And I know that, I wasn't going to, sit for my MCAT another time. That's just a dreadful exam. No one wants to do the MCAT again. So I would just do it. If you really think that this is something that you want to do and you've been thinking about it for a really long time, just don't hold yourself back. It may be, the opportunity that you didn't know was waiting for you. So
great. Dr. Wu?
Yeah, I totally agree. I get it. I was there. We all were there. There's a lot of stress, a lot of doubt. I am someone who retook the MCAT and actually ended up getting the same exact score. So I went through it, but I applied knowing that this is exactly what I want to do. And I, too, had heard great things from about Ross, had a lot of support from health professions advisors at Vanderbilt. They were fully supportive of my decision to apply to Ross. If there's little things that you're worried about in your application, once you get an interview, that's the perfect time to be totally transparent about it. I fully agree. Ross looks at your application holistically. If anything, especially coming from someone like myself, I was kind of not traditional. I did a music major, and they like hearing about those things and the things that make you unique, but also, why maybe your MCAT score may have been this, or you tried to take it again, what happened, or this score from your science class wasn't great, but they want to hear what did you do and what did you do to remedy those things. And I know I was asked those things on my interview, and I was totally transparent. I got a tutor and did all of these things to try to improve, and they just want to hear more from you, to get to know you as a person.
And I think really, that is so true about our faculty. They're overwhelmingly from the U.S. We have a number from Canada as well that I guess be our next largest contingent. But guess what? About 85% of our students are from the U.S. Some years it's 88%. Canada is usually about 10% of our population is Canadian. So, and yeah, we have dozens and dozens and dozens of different nations of birth. There's a lot of new Americans. There's a lot of new Canadians. It's an incredibly diverse group of students, just from all over the world, from so many different education backgrounds, from music to neuroscientists to nursing to pharmacology. There's so many different backgrounds that people come from. I think the thing that's great about our faculty is their only question is, are you qualified to be our medical student now? Do we think from those 40 years or near 40 years of experience that you're going to be one of our great students? They're not asking whether you were an A student when you're a freshman. They're not asking were you the right kind of biology or biochemistry or genetics major. You came from music, but what our faculty recognized is that you were awfully bright. Not a traditional pre-med student perhaps, but they knew that you were very bright and you're a great person, and they thought that you'd be a great student and physician, and all those things, because of your hard work and their support, have played out. I think that's what really drives our faculty is, they've taught at U.S. schools, they've taught at Canadian schools, they've sat on different admissions committees. And I think what happens in Canada is you have, it's about 10,000 applicants now trying to sit down in a couple thousand seats. In the U.S., you have 53,000 applicants trying to sit down in 21,000 seats. It puts U.S. and Canadian schools in an awfully difficult position, right, where you automatically trend towards who has the highest MCAT, who has the highest GPA, even though there may be reams of data, so many examples of our students. I don't think there's something that's so special. I mean, I love Ross, and we have great faculty, and we have great facilities, and we have great hospitals, but it's hard to say that we have more resources than one of the great schools in Canada, or do we have more resources than one of the great schools here in the United States, and probably not. But I think what we've given is we've given access, and we've given support, and we listened. We read the entire application. We didn't stop reading at, do you have a 5.10 MCAT and a 3.7 GPA? And if you deviated too far away from those averages, you're not coming to our medical school. Even higher, I know in Canada, you're thinking if only it took a 5.10 to get into to get into a school in Canada. But I think that's what it's really been about, has been access, right? Is that there's so many deserving students in the U.S. and Canada that there simply are not enough seats, period. And every single year, when there's these hundreds of amazing Ross graduates that go out as residents, especially here in the U.S., we have a number that go up to Canada as well. Those are tremendous students, right? And they've proven that they had what it takes. They've passed the U.S. licensing exams, they've passed Canadian licensing exams. They've done what they needed to take to be competitively hired by that residency program, right? All they needed was access. They needed a high-quality education. They wanted a high-quality faculty, strong support. Yes, they need all those things, but they needed somebody to give them access to that, and I think that's what's made us special. Dr. Omar, do you want to finish with Jennifer's question?
I think just what I can say is that I was exactly where some of you are. I had started my application, closed it, went back to it maybe 3 or 4 different times, just thinking, okay, I didn't do so well in course A, B, and C in first year, and then second year I had this little lapse in judgment, but eventually I just kind of went through with it, said, okay, all I can do is submit my application, and whatever happens, happens. And I had the opportunity, like Dr. Wu was saying, to explain what happened in the interview, because a lot of people think that people just see the number, which is what some U.S. and Canadian schools do, but I had the chance to have a real personal communication with the person who interviewed me about, okay, this is what was going on in my life at the time, but I was able to improve, and by the time I got to the last year of undergrad, I was a pretty good student, and I had the scores to prove that I would be ready for the challenge that
So you were ready. You weren't ready at 17, but you were ready at 21.
Pretty much, yeah. By the time that I applied, I knew that I was ready, and I had some of the evidence to show to Ross that, okay, I kind of got my act together, and I'm ready and committed to this lifelong path.
Where was your clinical home for third and fourth?
In Chicago. I did my entire third and fourth year in Chicago at West Suburban Hospital.
Oh, great.
And then I did my fourth year at Mount Sinai and St. Anthony's.
Fantastic. That's good. And I think, again, that's it's so different nowadays in terms of versus a decade ago, but having that clinical home, we talk about that support, anybody can talk about support, but it's the fact that 100% of our clinical students are put into a tracked program, right, where they're in that one city, whether it's 2 hospitals or whether it's 1 hospital or, or 1 hospital for you and, 1 hospital for third year for you, and it sounds like 2 hospitals for 4th year. But
I went to Michigan for 4th year.
For 4th year, all right. So
you have the option if you want, and I wanted to, go and experience a different hospital.
You went to, was it St. Joseph Mercy?
Joseph, yeah.
Oh, they're fantastic.
I loved it.
Yeah, they're an awesome program. But I think that's kind of the neat thing. That's, by having home hospitals, you can do things like mock interviews. You can do things like reviewing for step 2 and using the sim. They have a good sim facility. I know they're at St. Joe's. But using those facilities and using that faculty, it's U.S. faculty, it's our faculty, it's shared faculty. But using those faculty members as mentors and also as preparation for licensing exams, preparation for residency. Your first residency interview should never be an actual residency interview. It should be that practice, right? Because that first interview you have, maybe they end up being the one that chooses you and you choose them. So, but it's a lot. You can talk about support, but I think if you look at what we're doing from the hands-on with the organ-based curriculum, seeing patients right away, graduating up to that immersive U.S. hospital experience. So 60 weeks of foundations of medicine instruction, and then it's 90 weeks in U.S. clinical training. So it's when we say it's immersive, it is immersive. It's 60% of your MD is earned here in U.S. teaching hospitals and ACGME hospitals, which I think is a very important point with mergers coming up. We are not having to go and get our affiliates to go and seek a ACGME accreditation. They have ACGME accreditation, those programs, right? So it's I think that's a very important point.
And if I may add, like doing a lot of rotations in U.S. schools, and if you're worried, oh, is Ross going to prepare me for rotations? Am I going to be able to stand up to, being as prepared as that student who did medical school at University of Chicago or University of Miami? Well, having rotated with students who went to U.S. med schools, I feel that Ross prepares us even more than I could have ever imagined. I've had attendings say that Ross students are always by far the most prepared. They're always on time. They work the hardest. So don't feel, or if you're doubting or wondering, are you going to get prepared by an education in med school, going to Ross, you will be more than prepared, whether it's taking your boards at the end of your first 2 years or taking your Step 2 CK. I felt prepared along the way. You're going to have to study, of course, on your own, and it's going to take a lot of personal study time, but Ross definitely gives you more resources than I could have imagined.
Well, I just think you traveled from being a heart performance music major from Vanderbilt, so basically you brought your hard work and your intelligence, and now I know that from previous residents, people tell me that at Cleveland Clinic, Florida, they have hundreds of applications a year to their internal medicine program, and they chose you, right? You earned it, right? I mean, you do have to be a star student in medical school to be able to be a resident there, and you've done just that. So I think that's a very inspirational story, because we hear all the time where folks say, well, I didn't do the prescribed path.
Yeah.
I didn't have necessarily what people would consider a typical major going to medical school, and I think the fact that you're incredibly bright and very hardworking and earned that position, I think that should serve as an inspiration to people.
Thank you, Carrie. And if I may add too, like if anyone's doubting, like if they went on U.S. med school interviews and maybe were waitlisted or rejected or even flat out told, like, well, because I went on a U.S. med school interview and I was told, well, you didn't have that traditional background, you're a music major. I don't know about that. Don't let that hold you back from, like, realizing your dream of wanting to go to med school and feeling like, oh, should I do this? Because that's just one person's opinion, and that is, in my opinion, I mean, U.S. schools and maybe Canadian schools, they're looking for a specific profile, and I mean, to that end, in my opinion, Ross really does look at everyone holistically.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't let anything in your background hold you back. Don't let anyone gave you doubts or you're feeling doubts about anything, don't let that hold you back.
We should not let scarcity of seats in USMD and Canadian MD programs be confused with qualification, with ability, with your chance to be as good or better than any other physician that's training here.
And I think
that's the toughest part.
it's easy for us to say. Carrie and I talk to a lot of students.
A lot of alumni.
Whether it be, applicants through the process, folks that are attending our seminars that we have throughout the fall, which if you're interested in attending, please make sure to check out our website. We say this all the time, but we've got 3 real success stories here. So if you don't believe it out of our mouths, listen to these folks here.
Congratulations again. I'm so excited for all 3 of you, and good luck with the rest of intern year. We hear the stories about about this magical first year of residency. But you guys,
we've been dreaming about this.
So I was going to say you guys are all clearly even with the hours and I know the stress and the little bit of nervousness with it being the first month in residency. You guys are obviously doing great and very excited.
I mean, it's challenging, but what it's kind of what we expected. We knew that it was going to be like this. This is what we want to do. But it's so far. I mean, we're all 4 weeks in, and it's been a great experience. Learning a lot, getting to actually feel like you're responsible, but still great supervision, great people around you. So it's been very interesting. I'm excited to kind of keep it going and finish up in a couple of years.
It's great.
And I think, for those of you that may have joined us late, we've got Dr. Omar and Dr. Butt, who 4 years ago, from this moment, were sitting in your exact situation. And now they're 4 weeks into their residency. That too could be you.
Amazing. It's fantastic. So thank you for joining us tonight. If this is the year that you are going to pursue your MD with Ross, make sure that we have your application ASAP. Really call our office tomorrow. Try and fill out an application tonight. If you get stuck, call us. We'll help you. We'll walk you right through it, and we're going to make sure that we can consider you for an interview as soon as next week, and then have your decision as soon as the end of next week, and have Jennifer's team get you ready for your first semester and ready for orientation. If we don't get the response that we want, and the faculty ask you to do some additional training, then it becomes a conversation of what are we doing this September, either classes-wise, MCAT-wise, what are we going to do to get you a bit more training before we consider you again in December. All right, so let's get after it. All right, thank you for joining us, and thank you to our graduates in their very busy intern year and in July of their intern year for coming here to talk to you tonight and share their insight. Thanks a lot, Dr. Wu.
Thanks for having
Thanks a lot, Dr. Omar. Thank you.